When I walked in, I thought to myself, this is not the most beautiful house I've ever seen. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It just feels more and more rare as time goes on. I just felt like this house is not just a beautifully preserved example of not just modernism, but this specific style of modernism. It sort of represents the neighborhood and what the neighborhood was at the time, because many of the homes in this neighborhood have been changed to something else. Beautiful, many of them, but not original. And I feel like this sort of acts as not only a place marker in history for this house, but for the whole neighborhood. My name is Daniel Krog, and we are in the Basin Residence, which is in the East Hills of Studio City. The house was built in 1959. The architects are Benton and Park. Benton and Park studied at USC in the early 50s. They graduated in 1952. They started their architectural firm in 1954, and this house was built in 1959. They worked under A. Quincy Jones right out of college. They are mostly known for residential mid-century modern homes. They did do some multifamily homes. They did some commercial projects, institutional projects, but most of the projects that they're famous for are their homes. This house is really more earlier modernism, kind of high modernism, technically called custom contemporary ranch home from 1959. Most people would call that a mid-century modern ranch. The original owners, the people that commissioned the house, are Michael and Joanne Basin, and he was an electrical engineer and a businessman, and he had various businesses, very successful. They started the process in 1958, built the house in 59. I believe the certificate of occupancy is 1960. What I find interesting about the story is this was a trophy house at the time, 2,700 square feet trophy house, and I think it's very telling of the ideals of modernism that was considered quite a large house back then. I don't know much more about them other than they just wanted a cool house. This was one of the first lots developed in this neighborhood. A lot of the houses around this house are more California ranch, that it goes with the neighborhood, but it was sort of an elevated expression of what this neighborhood was all about. How we got the house, we were in escrow on the house next door, and that's how we discovered the neighborhood, and that house fell out of escrow. I was a little devastated, but then I started to get creative and I started to look around and think about what we could do instead. I found the photos of this house online and fell in love with it. Our realtor approached the then current owner's realtor, and we basically stalked the house for a year. I had my realtor call that realtor once a week. The owner, the man we bought it from, was actually really wonderful, and he was very true to his word, and he promised us that when it was time to sell, he would reach out to us first, and he absolutely did that. We bought it off market. That's the short version of the story, but gosh, what a great feeling to go after this house and to be able to get it and have it work out so beautifully. Adam and I are both so happy. We bought the house in 2021. I finished the restoration in August 22, so a little over 8 months. It was pretty untouched. The decorative cinder block walls were here, all the original B-board was here, the floor plan was totally untouched. The kitchen had rotten cabinetry that we needed to replace. The flow of the kitchen was it had been remodeled in the 80s, and they put an island in the middle of the kitchen, which kind of ruined the flow of the space. So put the kitchen back basically to its original state as closely as possible. The flooring was kind of a mishmash of different materials, and I unified the surface with the vein cut travertine that was inspired by the vein cut original fireplace. So that's kind of what I do when I do a restoration project, is I sort of take what's original to the house, and if there's something that isn't, I basically mimic what is here and match the new materials with what has already been here. This house was especially exciting to restore because there was so much that was here that sort of dictated the interior design. And a really good example are these built-in drapery track casings, I would call them, where you don't get to choose. You can't put a roller shade up there because it's not deep enough, and you don't get to put a Roman shade up there because it would stick out below it. This house was designed for drapery, and there's other examples where the color scheme of the house was here. All the colors of the walls and the block wall and the wood paneling, it's all original to the house. And it's actually a really interesting color palette. It's a palette I would never have chosen myself. And that's an example of sort of letting the house happen to me rather than me sort of imposing what I think it should be. And if you really look close, the house is actually pink and yellow. It looks cream and white. It's actually really not. It's actually very yellow and very pink, kind of a dusty pink and a muted yellow. And I think that is so fascinating that never in a million years would I have said, I want to choose pink and yellow for my house. But here we are, and it's perfect. And it's actually, the color palette is pulled out of the travertine by the original designers and architects. So again, I feel like design is more an experience of listening rather than imposing. And that's what I did here, and I hope that it comes through. I think it does. We got the house historically designated in 2024, last year, and I really just did it because I'm such a believer in restoration and preservation. When I first saw this house, I just knew it was such a rare, untouched gem. I just feel like these houses, they're so beautiful. Once they're gone forever. So I felt really strongly about getting the house designated. Our historian, Daniel Krog, helped us out with the nomination process, and he's a great architectural historian that wrote a really powerful nomination, and it was approved. I have some kind of cardinal ideas that I try to follow, and one is that I listen to the house first, and then I listen to myself. I never impose my will on a house, and certainly not this house. I let the house tell me what it wants, and I know that sounds a little weird, but actually I let it tell me what it wants by what's already here, and I base the restoration on the original materials that are here. And I always feel like as a designer, it's not my job to put my stamp on a house, it's my job to bring out what the house is already meant to be. I do all types of interior design, but I'm most passionate about period restoration, especially modern homes. I just think there's such a strong ideology behind it. I get excited about taking a piece of history and making it as close to that history as possible. My first degree was in music, and I was taught in a very emphatic way that you don't take a piece of Mozart and put your jazzy spin on it. You can if you want, but it is a little foolish. And I think that's true of modernism. I think if I don't respect what this ideology is about, I'll end up doing something that isn't as powerful as the original version. I mean, gratitude is really the first word that I think of. And every day, Adam and I are so grateful. The view changes every day with the light, with the season. It just never gets old. And I think that the house itself is beautiful, but the way the house is sited on the land with the view and the location, it's something that we do not take for granted every single day. Every morning I love getting up, I love making my tea. There is as per the style, the custom contemporary ranch, there is a connection to Japanese living and Japanese design in this style, and I feel that living here. We just feel really lucky. There's something really powerful about living in beauty. And there's a restraint in modernism, and there's like a restrained beauty that inspires how I want to live. And it's really powerful. It really, really is. And there's not a day goes by that I'm not grateful. I feel good about the preservation movement. I think there needs to be more of it. I think we can address the housing crisis and preserve beautiful important historical properties. I don't think one is mutually exclusive of the other. Some people talk about it like that, like it is. If you're into preservation, then you're getting in the way of the housing we need. But I don't see how allowing a house like this to be demolished so that a, 15,000 square foot mansion can be built is helping the housing crisis. So I really believe in preservation, and I think that art can save people. And I think a house like this is art. And I think great preservation and great restored interiors inspire better living. So I feel very strongly about it. I hope that this house and the other great houses that you feature on your channel inspire people to look deeper at what's in front of them and look deeper at what they might have, and then hopefully want to preserve it. Modernism was really, truly an ideology that was very cohesive, that was created by geniuses. And I always think of my education in music. We're clear that Mozart and Beethoven and Schubert were geniuses, and we want to preserve that history for a reason. And I think American modernism especially, it's very patriotic for me that this happened in America at a very specific time, and it's a history that is really, really worth preserving and is very inspiring. Once it's gone forever. The best way to preserve it is to get excited by each individual example. I do feel like I'm a steward of this house. I feel like I'm a cheerleader for modernism, and I hope my interior design work lends itself to that, and I hope that these videos lend itself to more people just getting excited and feeling protective of modernism, because it is misunderstood, deeply misunderstood, and often demolished by people who don't understand what they're demolishing. So that's probably my hope. If we ignore what's in front of us, we miss out on something really, really important.